We don't need a lengthy intro for this one, I'm sure. If you've been keeping track of the discourse surrounding the Total Drama reboot, you probably know who Damien is. And if you don't, he really doesn't require much of an introduction. Damien was in both seasons of the Total Drama reboot, and had a minor role in both of them. The fanbase liked Damien pretty much the moment they saw his design, and people had high expectations for him since the beginning. So imagine everyone's surprise when it turns out he only got as far as the 5th boot in Season 1, making him one of the only 6 pre-mergers that season. He made it much further in Season 2, where he plays 6, but his role in that season really wasn't that much of a step up from Season 1, at least in my opinion. But that didn't stop Damien from quickly becoming one of the reboot's most popular characters. I wouldn't say he's the consensus favorite, but I think if someone interviewed a bunch of Total Drama Island reboot fans and then made a tier list based on their common opinions, Damien would land on the higher end of that list. I'd go so far as to say that he would confidently beat out characters like Millie, Caleb, and Emma, who definitely had more relevant plot lines across the 2 seasons. Total Drama fans are no stranger to picking out minor characters that they really like, and every generation has that one. With the Gen 1 cast, it was Noah, for Roti it was Dawn, and for Pacateo it was the twins, even if I think that's a bit of a different issue. And honestly, I get it. I like Damien. He's a very charming character, and his unique brand of comedy brings something fresh to both seasons. I think the reboot does a really good job of letting every character have a chance to be funny. And while I haven't exactly been keeping count of how many times I laughed during both seasons, I like to think that every character got at least one laugh out of me. That being said, both seasons have their main comic relief characters, so to speak, and that's Z in Season 1 and the Hockey Bros in Season 2. I've seen these characters getting flack for making it far in their respective seasons without having a dramatic plotline, and I think that's a little unfair. The idea that characters need an arc to be important or deserving of making it far is one that I really don't take to heart. In most serialized TV shows, yes, your main characters are usually going to need compelling character arcs, but Total Drama is a little different. Some people rag on Wayne for floating in Season 2, but he and Raj were crucial for lightening the mood when things got a bit too serious, especially with the pre-Aleb stuff. Season 2 aimed to be more comedic, but it had its fair share of drama, and pretty personal drama at that, so having Wayne and Raj around to be the stupid, dumb idiots helped break up the tension. I say those words affectionately, by the way. You gotta stop taking this show so seriously. If you can't appreciate the comedic genius of Wayne floating away from the island in Episode 8, and everything he and Raj did in Episode 11, then I'm sorry, but you're not fun. Z does this as well for Season 1, but arguably even better. I know everyone appreciates Z in Season 1 as he was one of the fan favorites, but I don't think as many people stop to think about just how important he really is. I'll save that for his own video, but to make my point really quick, I think Season 1 is a drastically better TV season with Z's inclusion, and he improved the quality of the episodes by a lot more than he gets credit for. Now, I tell you all this because there's a certain point I want to get across. A character that relies primarily or entirely on comedy can be just as fleshed out and important as the dramatic characters. Because if you tone down Z in Season 1 or the Hockey Bros in Season 2, everyone would feel that. There'd be a void in the season that the other characters couldn't quite fill by themselves. They are crucial to the tone of their respective season. But I don't think we can say the same about Damien. Don't get me wrong, I think Damien is a very funny character, and he has plenty of scenes in both seasons that had me audibly laughing. In Season 1, he was meant to be a minor character, so he really didn't need to do much except for be funny, and in my subjective opinion, I think he did just that. Sometimes in Total Drama-inspired works, and hell, even the show itself, the early boots can often feel like filler characters, so I'm really glad that Season 1 gave Damien enough time to make a good impression, but not so much so that his early elimination felt too soon. I would have liked for him to stick around longer, but I can accept that he had a small role to play, and he played it really well. But we run into some problems with Season 2. Now, full disclosure, I think the hate for Season 2 is wild. I think a lot of the issues people seem to have with it are really overblown, and I absolutely cannot accept the idea that it is somehow equally as bad as All Stars and Pacateo. That is absolutely ridiculous. At some point, you're just being mean. Season 2 isn't perfect by any means. There are a couple of things about it that even I don't like, but for the most part, I think the likable cast and the fun challenges are enough for me to overlook a lot of these flaws. But there's this one part of Season 2 that no matter how many times I try to analyze it, it just feels wrong to me. Like it's something that I genuinely can't explain because I have no idea where they were going with this plotline. And if you have an attention span greater than a goldfish's, you can probably guess that I'm talking about Damien's plot in Season 2. I think it's kinda ass. Actually, no, I can explain this much better. Damien's role in the reboot peaked at episodes 2 and 3 of Season 2, and then, after Millie's elimination, it went all downhill. He had such a good start. His plotline with Millie is one that I really like, and I think it pushes both characters forward in a creative way. Millie, up to this point, had been tied to Priya at the hip and never really faced any challenges of her own until, debatably, the final 3 of Season 1. Her pushing Damien down the 4-point slide is definitely in character for her, given her feelings of inferiority and ineptitude when it comes to thinking social situations through. And if you think I said too many big words too fast, well, let me rephrase. Millie's bad at people, she's bad at challenges, and she feels bad about all of that. So this makes a lot of sense. And for Damien, because of this new development, we establish his most important dynamic across either season, and the first storyline where Damien is actually taken seriously. Let's be honest, he wasn't breaking any ground in Season 1. His presence there can pretty much be summed up like this. Oh wow, I am on Total Drama. Oh no, Total Drama is scary. I want to go home. Everyone vote for me. I'm confident now. I'm gonna win this thing. Oh man, I'm so excited to bust a move in. Oh no, I've been voted off. That's not so very good. Oh well, back to playing Valorant. So it was nice to see that they showed interest in taking Damien in a more serious direction. Not all comedic characters can make the shift into a serious plotline like this. Lightning, for example, he's all comedy all the time, but Damien makes the transition very smoothly. When he's upset with Millie, he's not making any jokes, his anger is taken seriously, and it really highlights how Millie seriously damaged her relationship with him. It's compelling drama. He doesn't go full sad boy, but it's a different side of him that we never got to see all that much in Season 1. A lot of the reboot's minor characters, such as Axel and Scary Girl, never got the chance to be anything other than their initial stereotype, so Damien's at least doing better than them. There's also no tonal whiplash in this scene. This plotline makes sense for both Damien as a character and the series he's a part of. It also doesn't take itself too seriously so that we can enjoy some of the funny antics between Millie and Damien. If you want to write for total drama related projects, I wouldn't recommend jumping into the drama right away. Build up like this is really impactful, and I think it will help your project a lot. That's just me though, you don't have to take my advice. If that shift was not consistent with his character and the tone of the series, you'd get Alec from Disventure Camp All-Stars, whose spiel about how sad he is that his wife and son are gone is really not helped by the fact that episodes prior, he had absolutely no shame in admitting how much he neglected his own son. When Damien and Millie make up, they give him some jokes and silly moments, but it's not quite as cartoony as the previous episode. Season 2, Episode 3 is Damien's best episode in the series, because this is where he has his Ostiak moment. Never heard of Ostiak before? Well, I'd hope not, because I made it up just for this video. Ostiak is an acronym that roughly translates to, oh shit, this is a character. You don't have to remember that acronym, by the way. It's not on the test. I just made it because I wanted to sound cool. There are a lot of characters in Total Drama and its related fan series that are just there to be filler, and these characters do not have Ostiak moments. To simplify, an Ostiak moment is pretty much just when a character has a moment that is more than their surface level characterization. It's what separates the filler characters who you know are just gonna get booted early versus the characters who actually have more to offer. Noah in World Tour is a really great example of Ostiak. Connor in Disventure Camp All-Stars is starting to get there, and Tess fucking wishes. When I saw episode 3 and rewatched it after I spent my first watch through just gushing over Caleb getting lines, I thought to myself, oh shit, this is a character. Is Damien gonna get cool stuff this season? Oh boy, I can't wait. And then Millie got eliminated and Damien's momentum fell off a cliff. Let's get this out of the way real quick. Damien's plot in Season 2, if you can call it that, is that he finds the immunity idol, and he spends a lot of time trying to hide it. And then Julia finds it off screen, and yeah, okay, this should have been explained a little better, but Julia is not the subject of today's video, Damien is, and Damien was done really, really dirty. I don't think Damien is a poorly written character. I like him a lot. His comedy works, his serious moments work, his plots don't really go anywhere, but he's charismatic enough to make them marginally entertaining, I guess. But it's very clear that he had no business merging in Season 2 given what little he had to do. Notice how in the first few episodes of The Merge, when everyone's storylines begin starting up or cementing themselves, Damien is the only character who is alone. Priya and Caleb have their blossoming relationship, with Z becoming involved fairly quickly. MK and Julia have their blossoming relationship. Ripper and Axel, well, you certainly can't say they did nothing. And while Raj and Wayne don't have much of a storyline in the later half of the season, they were integral during the cheating plot in the pre-merge and served as Bowie's main motivation to stay on the straight and narrow. And even after he left, they still had an important role in the season, breaking up the tension when the other plots got too intense. And as time went on, these plots began to come together. Priya and Caleb got more involved with MK and Julia, while the Hockey Bros were the wild cards they had to plan around. Damien is a non-factor. After episode 3, he is essentially window dressing, only there to have funny scenes every now and again. For a pre-merger, that's perfectly acceptable, with how effective Damien's humor is actually very ideal. But for someone who would go on to get 6th place, that's just not gonna cut it. Damien's plot was heavily overshadowed by Julia's, Caleb's, and Priya's. And on a comedic level, he was competing with the Hockey Bros for screen time, which is a battle he never could have won. And that leads me to believe that he doesn't have a meaningful role in the season, which, if you're in the final 6, I think you should. I know this all probably sounds very convoluted and pretentious, but first of all, this is how I speak. Second of all, I'm working towards an English degree, so I'd like to get my mileage out of that. And thirdly, you get what I'm saying, right? Damien is so underutilized that past episode 3, he barely feels like a part of the season, and that's not something I can say for the other characters who often get talked about in the same breath as him. In Roti, for example, everyone felt important, aside from Stacy, who was, you know, the first boot. Everyone had something going on. I would go so far as to say that Dawn is as relevant, possibly more relevant to Roti's story than Damien is in Season 2. And considering she had just about the same placement as him in Season 1, that isn't just bad, that's really disappointing. Writing my thoughts out for all the other characters I've covered so far was really easy. Nichelle, Chase, Ripper, Scary Girl, Axel, I knew exactly what I wanted to say, and I wrote those scripts in just a few hours. This is my 3rd draft titled Damien video, and I'm still not sure about this one. And the more I thought about it, the reason why became blatantly obvious to me. The version of Damien we see in the show is a fun character, but he's not necessarily a believable person. Most of the reboot cast is, though, with the exceptions of Scary Girl and Nichelle, who have 5 and 8 episodes across both seasons respectively, and Ripper and Axel, who really don't need much explanation. And believability isn't always important for total drama characters. For example, a lot of the characters in Island aren't really believable people, but they don't have to be, it just fits with the tone of the season. This is probably the total drama cast that feels the most like real people, and I like when they're written that way. Even characters who are cartoonishly stupid, like the Hockey Bros, have moments where they feel a lot more real. Note how Raj has more of these moments than Wayne and is generally seen as more popular. And unlike those other 4 that I mentioned earlier, Damien also has these moments where he does feel believable, like in episode 3. And these are moments that prove to me that he could have been on the same level as Priya, Julia, Caleb, and Bowie. And that brings me to the biggest problem with Damien, the obligatory TLDR statement. I've rambled on long enough, I'll just put it out there. Damien is a good character, but what holds him back from being great is his lack of any meaningful character dynamics. Damien has 2 dynamics across both seasons, one with Priya and one with Millie. And if you're gonna bring up Nichelle, no. I feel like these 2 kinda got stuck together arbitrarily because the writers were having fun with everyone else and just put them in the timeout corner where they get like 1 notable episode each and maybe they speak to each other sometimes. It's about as fleshed out as Owen and Cody's dynamic in Island. And if you're thinking to yourself, wait, they had a dynamic? Yeah, they technically did, for like 2 episodes. Damien and Priya's dynamic actually is noteworthy because it seems like Season 2 tries to present them as friends. They're not. Like, you see Damien by her side, giving her encouragement after the Caleb fiasco. He acts as her hype man sometimes, but that's really not enough. I find it hilarious how so many people jumped on the shipping train for these 2 when his relationship with her basically amounts to Priya's unimportant second friend. In both seasons. He hangs out with Priya and Millie in Season 1, and same with Priya and Caleb in Season 2. And in those seasons, it doesn't seem like they have much of an opinion on him other than, yeah, he's cool. His dynamic with Millie in Season 2 is the only one where it feels like an equal partnership. unless you count both him and Nichelle putting in the bare minimum as equal, but that doesn't make for good TV, so I give it a failing grade. In those other dynamics, Damien felt like an accessory. In this one, he feels like a person. There's actual weight to his character here that a single immunity win and a small idol plot can't really help out. And I think it's perfectly fair to be dissatisfied with Damien's content in both seasons. Jurassic Fart is almost unanimously considered the worst episode of Season 1, and while the gross out humor is definitely the main reason why, the treatment of Damien probably played a part as well. And while Season 2 doesn't have a clear least favorite, IMDb lists Circling the Drain as the least popular, and coincidentally, or maybe not, that's Damien's second elimination. And in this case, I know for a fact his elimination is the main reason why. And to show you what I mean, let me reference something that I said in Nichelle Part 2. Each of these episodes gave the eliminated contestant plenty of screen time to show off exactly what led to their elimination. This is done so all of us at home can go, oh yes, I see, I understand why this character was eliminated in the context of the show. In that video, I stated that Nichelle's elimination felt weird because Z got most of the screen time that really should have gone to her. Well, the same applies to Damien here. His and Julia's rivalry just kinda happens to justify his exit? I genuinely think that every elimination in Season 2 makes sense and is satisfying, aside from this one. It feels less like a conclusion to a storyline and more like a half-hearted vote out. Like, I imagine everyone was in the writer's room like,
okay, Julia's really hitting her stride with this villain stuff. We've got Caleb and Priya progressing nicely, but, no one wants to get rid of one of the hockey bros just yet. Oh, wait, Damien's still here? Let's just boot him here. This works.
This was not the play.
Oh my god, is that Silly Billy?
There can be multiple animal-themed total drama YouTubers, Josiah. I think if this is how they wanted to write Damien, he should have been eliminated earlier, and if they really wanted him to get 6, his writing needed to be tightened up to accommodate that. And to prove that to you, I'm going to give a quick plot suggestion. Off the top of my head, very little needs to be changed to have this happen, and most of the bones of Season 2 are the same. Granted, I do have the benefit of hindsight, but tell me if you think this is better.
Yes!
Given that Damien is portrayed as someone with a close bond with Priya, I think it would have made more sense if he was the character caught in the middle of her and Caleb's relationship. Damien and Caleb have the exact same exchange in the woods that Caleb and Z had in the original, and Damien opts to keep quiet for 1, to spare Priya's feelings, and 2, because he's not a very confrontational guy and he wouldn't want to be stirring up drama. Z and Bowie would swap placements here, as Z has much less to do but still gets the honor of merging. And 2 more episodes of Bowie allows for Raj and Wayne to be set up better for the episodes to come. Plus, it means more Rajbo, and I think we all want a little more Rajbo in our lives. As the episodes go on, Damien would start to see more and more of Caleb and Priya getting along, and while Caleb's attraction to her is genuine at this point, Damien would still think he's acting. And seeing how deep and how personal this relationship is to Priya, Damien would get more and more pissed with Caleb until finally he snaps at him in episode 8, leading to Caleb's fallout. Julia may or may not have given him a push towards this, but I think it works either way. The fallout of this would give everyone something to do. Priya and Damien would rely more on each other, and we'd get to see some genuine scenes of the two interacting that show off their chemistry, as they probably spent most of episode 9 shitting on Caleb. Julia and MK could sit back and enjoy the chaos, while not having to be as actively villainous as they would have otherwise. And Caleb would be dealing with Priya and Damien's scorn as he tries to figure out what he can do to make everything right. Maybe the hockey bros come to understand his side of the story and try to help him out, even if their help doesn't go anywhere. Once Circling the Drain comes around, Caleb and Priya haven't quite made up, but they have made progress with one another and are working together again. But Damien wouldn't be so forgiving, and I imagined he and Caleb would still have plenty of animosity towards one another, with Priya being the one to try and rein them in. I like the idea that sometime after the challenge, Damien and Caleb could have a scene alone, where Caleb airs his grievances towards how Damien's been treating him, and Damien, in a bout of overconfidence, threatens Caleb by revealing the idol to him before the two part ways. And, as they leave, we cut to a little scene of Julia hiding behind a tree and watching Damien hide the idol again. Damien could still get eliminated here, but sadly, as much as I love her, I think it'd be better if Priya went out here instead, with Julia using the stolen idol to get rid of her. I feel like this episode would be stronger if it focused on mending Caleb, and I believe they could reach a satisfying conclusion without the 2 extra episodes. If not, I think they could tie up any loose ends in the finale. This elimination would force Damien and Caleb together, and they could have the same strained relationship in episode 12 that Caleb and Priya had initially. and this would result in Damien finishing in 4th place, but ultimately he'd end up on better terms with Caleb and would be more willing to support him in the finale. That's a quick rundown on how I'd improve upon Damien in Season 2. These changes may not seem like much, but think about what we've established in this hypothetical. Damien now has 3 relevant dynamics. 4 if you consider that he and Julia probably have a stronger dynamic considering how Damien's overconfidence is what allowed her to find his idol. His idol plotline is still intact, and now it has even more relevance to the overall show, instead of just being an excuse to keep Julia in longer. Keeping Damien involved with the central relationship of the season also gives him more agency and allows for him to smoothly transition from a more comedic character in the first half of the season to a character with much more dramatic weight in the second half. Is it the best way to use his character? I really can't say. At the end of the day, I just talk about this show and you decide to listen to me, and I'm very, very grateful for that. Thank you. And again, my general opinions on Damien are very positive. I just think he could have used a little more fine-tuning. But ultimately, I feel like Damien's natural charisma could do a lot to carry him forward. Daniel Keith Morrison did a great job bringing Damien to life, and I think his vocal performance is a big reason that this character is so beloved. So, in conclusion, I like Damien. But there's a very notable gap between him and the really good characters in the reboot. Even though I have gripes with how he was used, I'm still glad he's here, and I'm glad he's a part of the cast. Maybe if this cast gets a 3rd season, Damien can finally step into the main character role, make some friends, have a strong plotline, who knows? I certainly don't. I just talk about total drama on the internet. But that'll do it for today. Damn, that's 6 characters now? I'm 1/3 of the way through. Pretty soon I'll have all of them done and cement my status as the most informed TDR YouTuber. Now, if you want to see all that, I would recommend hitting that subscribe button and leaving a like and a comment. It does help me out quite a bit, so thank you if you do that. Still no outro, so I guess I'll just end the video on a funny Damien clip. See you next time, everyone.
Coming through! We gotta get this man to the camp!
I said a one-pointer. Then the falling, and the crushing, and the boot! Oh, the boot!